we are at the Policy and Personnel Committee on Thursday, September 7th at 7 o'clock a.m. So our first item is just an update and review and discussion of possible future employee benefit and compensation review. I have been working with the Insurance Center and actually have a follow-up meeting on Tuesday to kind of brainstorm, but then ultimately complete a survey that we then would ask our staff for some input too as well. So a wide range of things about whatever their interests are, what motivates them, and just to kind of see about where our employees are at from a standpoint of what's important to them, what do they value. So more to come on that too as well. So again, I'll continue to share with the committee and the entire board, but I should have something hopefully in draft form to you guys by, again, the end of middle to the end of September is the goal, to get this out to our staff at the beginning of October, for sure too, so.
Okay, and so that would go out in October, so if we did a policy meeting towards the end of October, that would give you enough, then how much time will you and they need then to kind of review that data that we gather?
I would hope by the end of October we'd be able to kind of present something to the Policy and Personnel Committee and then kind of drive from there about what kind of more employee engagement would we like to have, some further conversations and discussions too as well with that too. So we are going to continue to really engage our staff in their employee benefits. On the 19th, we're going to have an all-employee meeting for healthcare about how to leverage the benefits that we do have already embedded into our healthcare program, whether it be employee assistance, whether it be cost controls for themselves and the district. Again, it's just some opportunities that they have to really be a smart consumer of healthcare as we move into the future about what that means too as well. So again, the Insurance Center will be taking the lead on that. They've actually done that presentation to 3 other feeder schools, and the feedback that we're getting is very, very positive. They're like, well, I didn't know that I could shop, and particularly as we start thinking and transitioning everyone, or at least currently, into the HSA world, where it's not just a copay, it is real dollars.
Yeah.
So that's why just really giving people the opportunity to kind of think about where you want your prescriptions refilled, MRIs, x-rays, doctors, because from what I'm being told, probably about 80% of our healthcare is shoppable. Is shoppable. So.
And have you held a forum like that before?
We have, and it was basically through some of our wellness initiatives, through when we were with the co-op, but this will probably be the first really big cost control, and because when we say cost control, it's not just for the district, it's for the employee too, because again, we give them HSA dollars.
Yeah, it's having the consumer be taking ownership of and where they're going and
correct.
And do you think that will be well attended?
Yes, I think it will, because when we've talked about this ahead of time, we have an all-employee benefit meeting for our enrollments, when we had it last spring, very well attended by spouses as well, but a lot of questions, and particularly, this is the first time where we're only offering one healthcare plan, where last year we had about 30 to 40% of our staff that were on a traditional copay plan, so this is kind of some new world for them in helping them work through that too.
And they're all aware this is out
Yep,
there?
yep, exactly, yep. So we'll keep pushing that and continue to engage them too. So no, I'll have an update for you guys by that October Policy and Personnel Committee, for sure. Okay. Great, so let's jump into some policy reviews. Did you want to handle the records management and retention one first?
Sure.
Let's do that one first. So ultimately, it just kind of highlighted the state of Wisconsin basically asked all municipalities and school districts, any public entity, to update their management and records retention policy. Again, 90% of our school districts went to Neola or WASB and said, what does that mean? What do we have to do? Basically, it's just as a very broad understanding, and if anything would ever come up, this is how we are retaining our records. Now, there isn't anything new in here. A lot of it just refers to state statutes, which cover basically when we start talking about open records, board documents, financial, personnel. From a student standpoint, we're pretty, again, we covered student records, but student records are in here too. We're lucky that we're only through 8th grade, so we hand 99% of our records over to another institution from that standpoint too. So boilerplate, straight up WASB policies that get us back make sure we're in compliance with the state statutes and too. Like that.
Okay, couple questions.
Yep.
Just out of the first paragraph there with the explanation, it did, number 3, district adoption of general records schedule. This is obviously going in the 800s?
Yep.
What's not attached to this as addendum or another set policy or a rule is this schedule. It's again, when I see something in a legal document and it's capitalized and it's talking about the district adoption of general records schedule, A, do we have one? I guess I didn't see it, but maybe I wasn't working closely enough. B, do we need to adopt one in coordination with this?
Okay.
So if you could
Okay.
follow up.
Sure.
Number 2 below, administrative responsibility for the district records management program. Again, it's referencing something, is the program this document? Is the program this document and the schedules?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If you could get some clarification what is meant by that, because that, to me, when I read this over the weekend, I looked at it and said, is there more to this? And I recognize we're kind of pulling this out of the 800s to address now. If we're going to get to it, I get it. If you could get some clarification.
I'll get you clarification on that.
Okay. On the next page, 2-4, so up at the top, it says, working with other staff and with the school board president to bring issues and recommendations related to records management to the attention of the school board as deemed necessary or appropriate on a timely basis. Well, we have a policy committee. We're addressing this in policy. My question to Nikki and you would be, should we change school board president to policy committee? Or should we add or policy committee? Because it's really the policy committee, whether constituted in this form or, in future boards, that bring changes and different things, or should be bringing things to the board, not the board president.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? From a roles and responsibility perspective, I was reading that as, well, you're taking the policy committee future out of the equation, and shouldn't it be the policy committee that reviews it and make a recommendation?
Do we always have a policy committee?
We don't.
Like
I'd
we're
have to go
doing
back.
I think
policy now?
I think we wrote it in the
It is a standard
hundreds last
committee.
year.
Okay,
I think we wrote policy committee as a standard standing committee in the hundreds last year.
okay.
Right, it is a standard, it's a
Okay.
standing committee, so.
Then I agree.
I mean, I'm fine with the board president, but I also think you should have a policy committee too.
Okay.
Because ultimately, I think you want it to come up from that perspective.
To flow.
Anything that changes has to come through.
I think so.
Board policy says that if you
Yeah.
change something in here,
Yeah.
in any policy. Okay.
Good catch.
And then on 4 below, it just talked about society, Wisconsin Historical Society. Is that the same thing? It's in the first paragraph there. I recognize this is a boilerplate here, but it says waived by the society, and then the sentence below that, it says Wisconsin Historical Society. Is that what it's referencing?
That's what it's referencing.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I think that needs to be
Yep.
flipped around
Yep.
to make it actually correct.
Yep.
Okay, the next page, under pending unresolved and litigated requests for access to district records, just a general question, the second line there. The district's legal custodian of records,
Mm-hmm.
who's the legal custodian?
Me.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
so I will bring those changes forward, and I'm gonna follow up, and within, either we need to create one, or I will find where we have our general records schedule and plan, and bring that back to the team, so, yeah, do that.
Okay. I think if we have one, we should make it available to us, and then if we're bringing this to the board, so they know, like, because if it's in here,
Needs to be referenced. Yep.
well, if it's referenced in here, people should be aware of what it is.
Got it. Okay. All right, 600 series. Okay. All right, this is kind of a big global overview. I did review our current 300 policy, or 3,000 policies, which is where our fiscal is, and so in reviewing these, I did go through and either highlight where we are updating or the ones that need to be deleted from there, and those are in the matrix too as well. So everything, again, just kind of cross-referenced what it is we currently have versus what it is that we're going to be replacing with too as well. So I guess we'll just probably go through them one by one like we have in the past to see if there's any questions or anything. I will review, and then again, I'll go through and do another scrub if, like I've been noticing in kind of preparation for this too, some things are still italicized and things like that. So I'll do another scrub for that ahead of that when it goes for full review of the board too. So I'll go through it and revise a couple things that way too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so if it's italicized, it doesn't mean it's any more important or less important than any other words. So.
Thank you, I did
Yep.
have those.
Yeah, I know, I was like, we'll highlight that right away. All right, so 610 is just fiscal management goals, about kind of the, again, just some big picture, big level statements about what it is that we're trying to do from a fiscal standpoint.
And there was no WASB example of this.
There was no WASB example of this, nope, there was not, but I thought it was important. The other piece too, and when doing this, I did cross-reference, I had Whitefish Bay, Oconomowoc, and Us Up as well, because those are some other WASBs and some other policy developments that have been fairly recent too as well. So this is truly for Oconomowoc.
I didn't have anything on this one.
Okay.
All I had is the semicolons were bugging me, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the and between 3 and 4, just to me if it's numbered, but
Got it.
minor.
We need to- Okay. All right. Annual operating budget policy. Again, this will update basically and combine 3001, 2, and 4 with us. Again, just kind of highlights exactly what it kind of says, is just what are we doing and what is the operating budget and how do we go about approving our annual budget, which does include the annual meeting and the budget hearing and things like that.
Okay, the only thing I had on this one was in our existing 3002, it says, shall file financial reports with the Department of Public Instruction as required. And I didn't see anywhere in here about filing financial reports with DPI as required. I know that it's a normal course of business that we do that.
I can add that.
I just bring it up, if you could just look at it, and I don't know if that's a question for WASB, that's covered somewhere else, or again, I recognize it's a normal course of business, but if it's normal course of business and it was important once before, do we need to have it?
I'll take a look and I will put it underneath number 8. I'll make it number 8, file appropriate reporting with DPI. Okay. Okay. Management of tax exempt and tax advantage obligations policy. So, establish an expectation annual budget, estimate and costs associated with post-issuance compliance activities. Again, boilerplate, WASB, again, that we're just gonna make sure that our record keepings and obligations are, continue to be met, and that we will do what it is that the state of Wisconsin requires us to do.
And what is the audit question mark on the matrix?
I just wanted to make sure that we had an audit. I can go back and take that, because we do have an audit policy, because that's
Okay.
where I was like, this is a lot of audit stuff, but I did put in an audit policy,
Okay.
684 a little later, so I'm going to, because that was a note for me to say, is this our only audit policy?
Okay,
Because WASB did not have an audit policy. So then that's where I was like, no, we need an audit policy
okay.
in conjunction with this.
And this is like goofy question, so I admit it's
Yeah.
a goofy question. Why are we making this 631.1 and not just 631?
We certainly can.
I just,
That's what WASB had it labeled, and
Did they have a 631?
there was no 631,
Yeah, so let's scratch the point
all
one.
right?
I know it's goofy, but it's kind of like I understand on some of those other ones
With
later on where it's like,
yep.
okay, kind of as a follow-on to it,
Yep.
but like this is not a follow-on to one, it's just
It's kind
a,
of like me pointing out semicolon. When I was reading, I was
wow,
bugging me.
semicolons are pretty. Okay.
Got it.
All right, 632.
632, all right. Short-term borrowing policy, basically it allows the district to go out and do this. The administration cannot do this without the approval of the board.
Okay.
So,
Okay. And,
Yep.
Vote.
so second paragraph, the italics portion,
mhm.
blah, blah, blah. Services are adequately accounted for in the district's budget, or if not adequately accounted for, what?
Oh. Blank.
Right, let me follow up on that.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like the sentence stops.
Needs a semicolon.
Assist in preparing for and implementing short-term borrow provided such that services are adequately accounted for in district's budget, or if not adequately accounted for.
I don't understand. Like, if they're not adequately accounted for,
Then we
then
have issues.
what?
Then what? I'll look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just adequately account for it, and we're done with it then.
It just seemed like an awkward.
Accounted for in the district budget, period.
I'll take a look.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Yep.
Next paragraph. Okay, prior to voting, this is number 2, an annual tax for the operation and maintenance of the schools shall be initiated by a resolution that is adopted by 2/3 vote of the board.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going off memory here from a year ago in the hundreds policy, and I apologize, I didn't go back and look, but I thought we established quorum and what a majority vote is. I thought we did that in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
My question is does the 2/3 jive with what is in the hundreds policy? I don't want to be in conflict with it.
Okay,
You know what I
let me
mean?
check with that, adopted by 2/3 of board's vote, okay. I am initiated by resolution to meet the immediate expenses of period July 1 to last week. I'll take a look at that. I'm not sure if that's something that's built into state statute, that if in fact a district is going to take money out, or to borrow, or to
Okay.
make this type of resolution, because there are some things in state statute, contracts have to be approved by 2/3 of the vote compared
Okay.
to, and that's all outlined in
Okay,
the one.
that's fine, I just,
Yep, let me take a look.
yeah, it just, okay.
Are the statutes, yeah, they are linked.
Yeah. I'll take a peek.
Okay, and then the question I had, it said from July 1st to the last working day in October. So it seems like it's a short, like, why does it, and this was just more for my education.
Yep.
Why from July 1st to October, end of October? Why is it arbitrarily October?
Let me double check that.
Is that a state statute?
Well, I'm looking at the state statute here, and it says no such loan may extend beyond November 1 of the following
November
school
1, the
year.
following school year, because it's short-term, because you have a tax
Okay.
obligation. We get a huge payment. We
In
get one of our
October?
payments in October.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, then that's
Yeah.
probably, okay,
Mhm.
it just was.
I'll double check on that.
Okay.
But
And then it says, the resolution shall levy, and I recognize we haven't had to do this, short-term borrowing for probably a long time, right? I don't know if
Mhm.
you're 10-year, you've had to do short-term
Yes,
borrowings?
we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
The resolution shall levy an irrepealable tax that is sufficient in amount to pay the principal of the loan and interest thereon as they become due and payable. Is that a indefinite tax? Is that a one-time tax? I'm just curious on that, having not gone through a short-term borrowing phase on my 2 years, 2.5 years on the board.
I'll double check on that.
Like, my question on that is like, I understand if there's going to be something approved by board and state statute says 2/3, like, I get that. But is that something, as a taxpayer, that they should expect every year, or is like, has to be approved every year? You know what I mean? Like, cause you might not be in a short-term borrowing every year.
Because that,
So if that tax continues in perpetuity, but you're not needing it per se for the need that was intended. So I guess it's more of a nuanced question, but if we're putting in a policy that, maybe it's my education.
Yep, well, it's my education too as well, because short-term borrowing still needs to come from you're gonna borrow money from the bank and you're gonna repay it through your Fund 10. So it's all part of the tax life, so we're not approving something that's above the tax authority of the board.
Okay.
Because the only thing we can do that,
Is
that's a referendum. That's a
Correct,
referendum.
okay.
The 10-year borrowing piece that you'll see in Fund 38 coming up here in a little bit, for solar, that 57,000 comes from Fund 10. So all of the interest that we would borrow has to come from Fund
Okay.
10's expenditures. I'm gonna
Okay,
get
so
some
that-
clarification on irrepealable tax, because that's, when people see tax, they're like, okay, what does that mean? So, got it.
Okay, thank you.
652, revenues from investments policy.
I'll just say I'm an absolute hard no on this policy. We need to do a lot more work. Well, one, just the title it should just be investment policy. I think this lacks any type of detail, guardrails, parameters on what's acceptable and not acceptable if we are going to quote-unquote invest excess balances. So, recognizing that, my ask would be that we pull this from any, if we're going to advance this set in September for a first read, I would ask that we pull this and we spend some more time on it.
Okay. Okay, we can do
Because
that.
it just,
Or when you say, again,
like,
Did you
for
and I wanna-
for instance, the district funds are invested at the highest rate and under the best conditions as possible in official depositories designated by the board. Okay. You know, like, I just think, all district events are made in compliance with legal, I just think like, we can do better and have
Okay.
guardrails for our business manager on what's acceptable. I just think it lacks a lot of detail.
Okay.
It's a
Did
little
you-
subjective.
Did you and I want to sit down and work a little bit on this? And I can show you some other WASB, Neola policies and we can.
That's fine, I think we could also reach out to our auditors to see if they have investment policies that they've helped clients with. A lot of times, financial firms can help with that as well. We pay them a lot of money for the audit, so we should lean on them at times as well
Okay.
for assistance.
What we'll do then is we'll pull this from the first read. We'll do a little work. When I say we, Andrew, maybe you and I can do a little work. I'll do some digging and gather some other policies and talk to some other people. And then we'll bring this policy back for a first read in October,
Okay.
because we'll rework it then.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. All right, student fee policy. Again, just kind of highlights how we will kind of go about establishing fees, and then ultimately that if fees need to be waived, the district would work with families and through different qualifications and things like that.
On the third paragraph, kind of halfway through, after the administration holds or attempts to arrange an in-person meeting with a parent or guardian, makes good faith effort to offer payment, provides final notice, the board authorizes the district administrator to pursue legal action through small claims court for the collection of unpaid fees due to the district. My question is, have we ever done that?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yes, we have.
Really? Okay.
Yep, we have, with significant balances, and this is typically when they graduate. Again, we work with the family, and we say graduate when we move from 8th to 9th grade, when they're no longer a student of ours. If we have to, we would ask a collection agency to pursue it, and then typically we start with a collection agency, obviously they get a cut, we get a cut, and then we go to small claims court. Wow. If
What
it's
is
significant.
considered significant?
Significant probably would be anything over $500, is we really try to pursue it. So we
Okay.
have, yes.
In the second paragraph?
Not often, but we
Yeah,
have.
okay. I just had no
Yep.
idea. Parents or guardians who claim that find a condition of their blah, 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 that whole paragraph. It doesn't mention appealing to the board. Should we leave this in the administration hands? Do you have a recommendation? You know what I mean?
I would leave it with us. We are very, in my time here, again, 13 years, we've never gotten to a point where if we sit down with the family and they show some sort of hardship, they can understand, they can explain, we're very workable with
Okay.
them. We've never had an issue with it.
Okay,
I don't see why we would have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was, as
Okay.
I was reading it, because sometimes we do have that, at least in the contracts and stuff, we have
Mhm.
appeals
Mhm.
are there. The only other thing would be just from standpoint of like, I know we have, there maybe not be in concrete, but we have specific dates and times we try to finish up the student fee schedule. Do we want to add specific dates to be completed and updated and approved?
Oh, we certainly.
You know what I mean? Like, because I know we try to get that done, obviously prior to school starting, prior to, we want to give,
We
You
can
know,
say
right,
August
you know what I
1st,
mean?
ahead of August 1st, school fees will be established.
yeah. I mean, I just think if we're having a
Sure.
policy, and I know we
Sure.
just, it's in our normal everyday.
Yep.
We start that process late spring through the summer as we're looking at various things. I know the finance committee looks at that from past experience, and so, and I know we work towards a deadline because of other things, and so I just thought.
Did you want me to specifically highlight finance committee as well?
Because that's who controls,
That's who
that's who
controls
controls that
who we-
recommendation.
Correct, yep.
Yes,
That's the way it's been done in the past.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be good if we're gonna have a policy on it, because it does reside in that committee.
By finance. Okay, I'll add that in there too. Good questions. Okay, all right, so grants from private, public, so this is the grant source too as well. Number 3, for $5,000. Again, that's a specific, again, this would be something new and different. We bring all of the grants and donations, or I shouldn't say grant, a grant's a little different.
Donations.
But, again, grants, anything under $5,000 is okay for me to accept, or do you want to approve all the grants as well?
How often does this happen in the past?
We've always brought a grant, like a PPG grant, like if, again, Mary Awanski always is
Yeah.
kind of putting in a mobile Exxon grant or something like that. Those always come through our donations, no matter how big or how small, just to make sure that it's an accounting procedure for us. So that would be our current practice.
I would agree with keeping it our current practice. So take out the no more than 5,000.
I just would, the board shall approve final acceptance of the grants, commit to receiving, implement, and administering, and then you cross out the rest.
Okay.
If that's our, crossing out the rest would be our current practice.
Andrew?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
Other than that, it's just our current practice.
Well then, does that roll into point number 4? The district administrator, district business office shall determine whether the receipt or expenditure of grant funds requires approval by the board.
Yes, the only piece to that would be is title money. There's some title money that get granted into it from a federal thing, because we've never asked to approve, Title I. Is that a grant? Is that a federal funding source? Yeah, we probably wouldn't need that.
That was my thought. Were you
Because
treating it
Title I
differently than
funding
that?
is approved through the budget adoption. That's when you guys approve Title I funding.
I just don't wanna contradict ourselves if we take out that one part.
I think if we took out the last part, I think we can take out this one.
That's what I was
Yep.
thinking. Andrew?
Okay. All right, fiscal management and control policy. Looks like, oh, before we do that, 657, this is one that I slid in there, probably after I don't think I included that.
The sources
It's in our
policy?
matrix, yeah, it's in our matrix, though.
Yep,
Electronically. In
And we have a
reviewing
number for
this, yep, it's 3005.1.
okay,
It's commercialism in schools. Basically, when we, about 5 or 6 years ago, when we went to ask for donations for the scoreboard, for instance, out here with Culver's, and we have Hewitt, the orthodontics and things like that, we created a commercialism in school policy that basically kind of highlighted the process in which that we can go and advertise in schools. Again, that policy, I'm just renumbering it to put it into the putting it into the 600s where it belongs, because it's a fiscal policy. So, sorry that isn't included in there.
It's not in the binder either.
It's not in the binder.
3005.1 is not in the binder.
It's not in your binder? if you wanted to just take a look at that, and basically it's about paid advertisements. And again, we just would need to renumber that going into that, the 600 policy.
To 657.1.
Correct, yep, it's in the online matrix, correct.
I will review that
Okay,
and send an email to each of you.
okay. Thank you. Financial management, 660, financial management and internal controls policy. Can just kind of highlight some very high level expectations of the district administrator and our business manager.
Just two general questions,
Mm-hmm.
maybe three. Do we get a lot of money from the feds? If so, when, how,
When we get money
what
from,
for?
what for, so the money that we get from the feds outside of ESSER, that was
Right,
like
yeah,
one
yeah.
time, let's put ESSER aside. There's basically 4 different title federal funds that we get. Title I is designed for reading intervention. That is based on your student-free and reduced lunch population.
Okay,
I do believe we're getting 0 this year
okay.
from that. Title II is a professional development fund. This year, I do believe we got $4,000 for it. Title III, I do believe, is for English language learners. We get under $1,000 for that, and we participate in a cooperative with CISA 1. Maria oversees that from an English language learner thing too. Title IV is another, I can't recall specifically what Title IV is, but it's a very, very small amount of money for either professional development, special education services, mostly intervention. I do believe that's what that's for too. So again, very little. This year with those title dollars, I do believe we're receiving less than $10,000 in all of our title funds.
All right, and then my last question is like, this, spent a lot of time talking about like kind of federal, what, state, it's just normal course of business.
More normal course of business, correct, yep. Yep. The other federal source we do get is reimbursement for our food lunch service.
Yeah.
So, yep. Depository of funds, 661. And we're going to establish, depositories and how we're gonna handle deposits and things like that.
Number 2, the board may authorize or direct the officers and employees who are charged with management of district funds to deposit district monies in a selected public depository that has been given instructions by the district to arrange for the redeposit of the monies through a deposit placement program that meets the requirements of state law. What does that mean? Now remember, you're talking to a banker.
I know. Remember, you're not talking to a business manager. So, what I would see that to be is, if we need to move funds around from a standpoint of is FDIC.
That's right. So there are
FDIC
programs.
There are
There are programs that banks have, typically managed by third parties, where, let's say you had $1 million, FDIC limit's $250, you want to manage that risk, they, through the program, will electronically, on your behalf, send $250 to another bank, $250 to another bank, $250 to another bank. These are banks that are spread all over the country, and it ensures that then your $1 million would be spread over 4 banks, and you would have your FDIC insurance on the entire amount. That's what I read this as. And I just
That
wanted
is
to
correct, yes. So we do have, all of our money is FDIC approved and insured because it is spread out over multiple different opportunities. Yep.
Smart. Okay.
I learned that.
Number 4, unless the board's designation of an official depository includes an express expiration date or is made subject to an express condition that, if satisfied, causes the termination of the designation shall remain valid until modified or until removed by a future action of the board. think about it, but my recommendation would not have open-ended. Think about, and I'm just gonna, as an example, this policy book. We never had a policy that stated a board in the future or whatever needed to review these and update these.
Right.
And so we're in the spot where a lot of these policies from 1998, 2001, just hadn't been updated in 20 years. We do now have a policy that says every, I think we did 5 years last year, right? You remember we added that? That is good custodial work by a board, a future board. I think that this policy should dictate that at least 5 years, once every 5 years, the finance committee should bring forth a recommendation to board reapproval. That's my opinion. I think that is work that should be done. Just blocking and tackling of oversight.
Well, I agree, because otherwise it all gets overlooked.
When you say, are we talking about who the public depository is?
Well, this references like approved financial institutions.
Yep.
Okay, so
Who are they?
yeah, who are they? I've been in the industry for 20-some years. Strengths and weaknesses of financial institutions changes all the time. And so I think that the finance committee should be looking at that at a minimum every 5 years. To
Well,
say,
alongside-
A, the list, and B, A, the list, what they are, and B, our primary provider. We do it with an audit, should do it with a bank account.
Along with the business manager?
Yeah, yeah,
So this should read, would like it to, unless the board's designation of the official excludes an express expiration date. This should say, every 5 years, or set time, the finance committee shall review,
the business manager,
Yes.
something like the business manager along with the finance committee should review the designated list of financial institutions and our primary depository partner, something to that effect.
The business manager recaps to the finance, or reviews.
Makes
Yeah.
a recommendation, something
Correct.
to that effect. I think that would be,
Agreed.
okay. Okay.
Can we pause quick on the 3005.1? Or, I'm sorry, 657.1 commercialism in schools? Can we
I'll pull that off, just like
pull
we
that
did.
off
I'll pull it
and
off,
we'll
just like we
revisit
did.
it?
Yeah, I'll pull it off, just like
Yes.
the other one, that's what I was
Just
thinking.
with the
Because-
investment policy.
Yep, with the
I'm
investment
sitting here
policy.
kind of scrolling through and I'd like more time to digest that.
It's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big one. So
Okay.
I'll pull that from the document, and then we'll
We'll
make a first
revisit.
read. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. You got it. Okay.
So Ron, just when we're changing 4, it might roll through the document down at the bottom with what the district administrative business manager shall,
Mhm.
so. This might be another policy where you reach out to our auditors to say, hey, we're working on this. What are, in your opinions, what are things that we should be thinking about when we look at approved institutions
Institutions.
for strengths and weaknesses?
Okay. 661.1, electronic transfer funds policy.
Sorry, Nicole, this one, we've got all sorts of ones and twos and rules. Again, parameters for, electronically transferring of funds.
I didn't miss anything.
This is
Pretty blanket.
pretty blanket, and I did run through because in reviewing all, we do have wires going back and forth against Sophie, because we're obviously getting emails and this got transferred. Sophie, you good with it? Yep, we got it. And
This is more Andrew's wheelhouse policy work.
return checks and other denied payments, 661.2. Again, just how are we gonna go about and continue to, review and access monies if a check bounces or anything else like that? And what we're gonna do with that.
Yeah.
Then there's the procedures about how we're gonna go about doing it as well, just kind of the rule that goes with.
And can those two just be combined, or does it need to be like with the R? Like we have 661.1, 661.2, 661.2R.
I can put that in, I can combine them, that's not an issue at all.
Andrew, any thoughts, or does it need to be separate because it's procedures?
I don't really have an opinion either way.
Okay,
Want me to combine them?
works for me.
Okay.
Okay, 661.2R,
Yes.
number 1, my recommendation would be to strike in the third line, up to $50 per payment. An institution is gonna charge us what they charge us, that's gonna change over time. It's not gonna go down.
No, it's
So-
not gonna go down.
I think it's only reasonable that if a check is denied, returned, or an electronic payment is returned, and we get charged
Charge
for
for
it, that should,
Go
I think it's
directly down.
reasonable that it goes
It goes
back
to
to the person.
Yep.
Because, again, up to 50 might cover it today. 2 years from now, it might not.
Okay.
And so that would put the district losing money. So I would just strike that.
Strike it. Okay.
And then, this one had no references.
About where we got it from?
Yeah, either legal, cross-reference, or anything.
All right. I know this came from WASB.
Okay, so if you could just look into that.
Sure. Okay, student activity fund management policy. Again, student funds, there's two types of student activities. One type of student activities where it's completely student-driven, where they collect the money and then they decide where it goes. Student Senate and National Junior Honor Society are those two. Then we have student activity, a different kind, which would be like the theater program, where we collect a fee, athletics.
Yeah.
Those would be, so we that's where there's certain district activities and there's student activities. So district activity, I should say, is theater, sports. Student activity, as designed by DPI, is student-run, they control where the funds go as well. So that's why there's two different highlighted areas there.
Does it need to be 662.1?
When we take a look at 662s, there's fund balance policy that are in 662.
Oh, I see.
Again, I is 662.3 fund balance, we could probably move that to 2.
Mhm.
We should do that right away.
Yeah, but what's 662? That's like,
There was no 662.
Well, right, so why don't we have a 662, a
And
663? And then it rolls into
Works for me.
664.
right,
Okay.
questions on this one?
Which one? Are we
We have fund balance?
No,
Okay.
management, student activity funds,
Okay.
just general questions, so. Number 8 on page, I guess it's under student activity funds, number 8, this references, no transactional activity over 24 months. Do we have a lot of these separate accounts, or?
We did,
Okay.
we had to clean them up,
Okay,
and we did at the direction of our auditors, if they haven't been, auditors came in and said, hey, if you're not running this club after 2 years, you need to do something with this money, what are you gonna do with it, because it needs to get
Okay.
off your books.
all right.
Perfect.
And then under misappropriation or misuse of student activity funds, if an investigation substantiates the occurrence or any misappropriation of funds or any other financial irregularity, the district will exercise its discretion to pursue such disciplinary consequences or other legal consequences or remedies as the district deems appropriate. As I read through all of these over the weekend, it references, in the case of like fraud, legal, bringing in other legal,
Sheriff's
This doesn't
Department
really say that.
investigations.
So there was like a sentence in some of these that talked about, like, in the case of fraud, that we'll turn over the investigation to legal authorities. Does that need to be added to this? Because does the word fraud need to be added to this? To, again, be in lockstep with other comments about fiscal management? I would just ask you to look at that
Okay.
and make a recommendation after
Sure.
looking at it. I would think that if, quote unquote, and I get there's a line between mismanagement or outright fraud,
and
but
theft.
this doesn't say outright fraud. In other policies, it talked about fraud, law enforcement. I mean, that's against the law, fraud.
Correct. When this has occurred in the past, we've immediately involved law enforcement.
Okay, so just
To
take a
two
look,
separate ones.
yeah, just take a look at that. And I just wanna make
It
sure
doesn't
we're,
need to say discretion to pursue such disciplinary consequences, shouldn't it just say to pursue disciplinary consequences?
yeah.
To remove the
Sure.
word such. Makes it a little stronger, I think.
Because I think the question is, and I think what we can probably do, in reviewing this already, the district will pursue disciplinary consequences and other legal consequences,
Read that again?
period. I think the district will exercise, or the district will pursue disciplinary consequences and legal consequences. I think that's the question, because if it's fraud, that's what we're directed to do.
Okay.
District will exercise.
Nope, we're not gonna say exercise
The
its
district
discretion,
will
Will.
pursue disciplinary.
consequences and legal consequences.
uh,
Disciplinary and
legal
and legal
consequences.
consequences. Yep. Because at times, that is, because we've,
Yeah, understood.
yep, got it, okay.
And these all get, like, these changes we're making, who approves these aside from the board? Does any legal person look at, like, we just changed that word?
We're not doing anything that
Okay.
would be, that'd be like, oh, can we do that? No, it's, because we have pursued legal,
Okay.
just to make sure we're protected, and the legal would say, hey, there's nothing we can do here. Okay, well then we've at least pursued the legal avenue.
As long as we're not doing
Yeah.
anything, we're not,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Fund balance policy, again, I changed it to 663.
Perfect.
Yep. That. Again, this is an update, we do have a fund balance policy, and this is where in number 4, I guess if there's any other questions, I know I have a question in number 4.
Yeah.
To the team. The district shall strive to maintain an unassigned fund balance equivalent to not at least 20%, okay? Again, that's what our current one is too, is like the goal is to have a minimum of a 20% fund balance, but not greater than 50%. Do you want to have that in there?
Why wouldn't we strive to have as large of
The argument could be made that you're overtaxing,
okay.
and that you could utilize part of your fund balance to lower your tax levy. That would be the argument.
And that is.
But the lower your fund balance goes back to like your free cash flow to be able to not borrow money, which is a cost to the taxpayer. So I think there's probably a balance of like having enough, and then additionally in years maybe where you don't get any more state aid or new money from the state on a per pupil basis like we've experienced over the last several years, having a healthy fund balance where if there's no new money and your budget says, your proposed budget is going to run a deficit, you technically have the capability to potentially run a deficit and not have to go to the taxpayers for like a special referendum. So there's a balance there of, not borrowing, paying interest, overtaxing, there's a balance. And paying for future, upkeep of buildings can come from fund balances, et cetera. So there's a balance to all of it. And what's the right? I'm sure there's not a perfect equation for it.
No, there's not. Again, ultimately, at the very last sentence says that you can consider, it'd be considered to lower the levy. The other piece that I know that if districts do have a 50% cap on their fund balance, that's Fund 10. You can always, just like we did in July, transfer money from Fund 10 to Fund 46. Fund 46 is not captured in our general fund balance as well too. So that way,
46 is
facilities, capital improvements and things.
Only for capital improvements.
It's like you are assigning fund balance without assigning fund balance because you're moving into a facility only fund. So again, I only highlight that is because it is something that, this would be new, we do not have anything, because our current policy says anything over 20%, the board may consider, running a deficit budget or being able to lower the levy.
Have we ever been close to a 50%?
We're up right around 39% right now. No, we've never been close to 50.
I've been thinking about this since the weekend, like what's the right number? Is it 40, is it 45, is it 50? I don't know what the right number is.
Maybe there isn't a number. I mean, right now we don't have a number, we don't have a cap. I think having a cap makes, my recommendation is putting 50% in, because anything over 50%, I would then recommend us move things into Fund 46, so then our community knows exactly what that money is being used for, and can be used for.
Yeah, I agree. I understand what you're saying, and I would agree with that methodology. At some point, though, you will get to. At some point, if you continue to be good stewards of the money and you manage your budget appropriately and save money where you can by, let's say we hit the 50% cap, and then we start building up Fund 46. At some point, though, you reach a point where you have too much. Yep. Now, that would be a rarity, I would think, in school funding.
Be a good problem.
Yes.
Right? That would be a rarity.
Very much a rarity.
But it's no different than how banks are operated with their loan loss reserve. It's taking money out of profit and putting it into a loan loss to weather an economic downturn. Auditors, the government, because it lowers your tax, what you pay to the government in taxes, it's the same concept. Like, at some point, like, well, wait a second here, we have enough money. Now we gotta return. Like,
right.
So while I understand that, and again, I don't know what the right balance is. And that is a future dream of being able to have enough for capital expenditures, a building expansion, to be able to just pay for that without having to go to the taxpayers. I don't know what the right balance is. But I understand what you're saying and how one could methodically say, okay, we've saved enough that we don't have to borrow, we've got money, okay, now we're gonna squirrel more away for, you know, a future gut of a building to bring it up to, you know, 2030 standards or whatever. You know what I mean? I get that, I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
I mean, we did that remodel with fund balances to, what, $2.5 million didn't have to go to the taxpayers for that. That was great, and it's great spaces over there, so I get that. So I would be at 50, but I think this is one of those where I think in our board meeting in September, we should pause and just highlight this for folks on the board to just specifically look at this policy and think about that, and then either have that discussion right away or have it in October before we approve it. Because it's significant.
Significant, yep.
Maybe the finance committee itself opines on that, can put on that.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna leave it as is. Okay. Then we're gonna have a discussion about it. Okay. All right, cash management. Again, just kind of highlights how we are going to be handling the cash flow in and out of the district when we talk about real cash.
I'm good.
Okay, fraud prevention. Again, just kind of highlighting how we're, you know, we are, if you suspect fraud, make sure we report it. There are, through our auditing procedures, again, the business office gets interviewed as it relates to fraud, and there are 3 random people employees who get pulled in, and then discussion about fraud too as well, about either opportunities or anything they possibly would know through a series of questions as well.
Okay, paragraph 3. It's kind of middle of it. In the event the concern or complaint involves a district administrator, the concern shall be brought to the attention of the board president. I'd like
Just board
my
president.
recommendation, because the business manager reports to you. I think it should go to your ultimate boss,
Okay.
which is the board,
Mhm.
and in delegation, the board president.
That's fine. Yeah, I didn't.
And by you, I mean district administrator, could be any district
Oh, no,
administrator
for
in
sure.
the future.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because that's a big deal.
right, yes.
If someone that really has that, it should go to the board president. It shouldn't go to one of your
Subordinates. Okay.
my opinion. That should be investigated by your bosses.
Right, and I kept it in there
Yep.
because they have immediate access to that person, but I understand where it should be.
Yeah.
Yep. Nicole, you good with that?
I'm good.
Crossing that out? Okay.
Okay, and then, my question, 2 questions now, and then kind of in that vein of if it involves a district administrator.
Mm-hmm.
Should we have, should this policy also then state that to have have an outside counsel or auditors investigate
Third party.
a third party? And here's my rationale. Why I came up with that thought process. Similar to contracts, you know, if a teacher, if the administration is making a recommendation to non-renew, the board doesn't know what's going on because we're the independent party that's gonna hear your argument and gonna hear the teacher's argument, right? And then we're gonna make our case. So in this case, we're your boss, the board.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Somebody has this, you know, I think, this is just my opinion on one person, we should turn that over to an independent party to investigate. That independent party brings us a document. I think that gives us an arm's length to say, we've had someone independently corroborate, you know, something.
In cases of fraud in school districts, whether it be from a business manager standpoint, district administrator, or
Yeah.
any high-level employee, It's always been a third party.
Yeah, I think we should state
That's
that.
fine.
And I think that is probably good policy just from a standpoint of watching out for taxpayers' money to say, hey, we're gonna bring an independent party because this is our CEO, if you will.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
we're gonna bring in people.
So whenever necessary, investigations will be conducted in coordination with district legal counsel and/or with other internal or external departments, agencies, or officials.
Yeah, that's general, but I'm saying in the case of the
In
district.
specific, okay, so
Yeah.
then we're gonna highlight specifically that
Yeah.
too, okay.
That's what let's specifically call that out.
In a case, and do we leave it with administration? Or are you gonna leave it
That's good.
district administration, or, district administrator? Or you just wanna leave it, anyone higher up, it's gonna be a third party?
I think it should just, because it does say district legal counsel, but I just think we should highlight something to the effect of, you know, and I don't know what the legal or how we want to word, but so that we're all on the same page. If it involves a district administrator, we must or will have separate outside.
Can we highlight the, or business manager on that, both of them? Because
That's what
even
I'm
if
saying,
that
I
comes
think
to
it
me,
Yeah, yeah.
if
I
I
got
think
it,
the
yeah.
business manager
Because you
is
should
doing
be
something,
removed from it too.
we need a third party.
Because you're the supervisor.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
okay.
saying.
Yeah,
Like, it
that's a good
needs to
point.
be-
That's a good point. Yeah,
Because either
I
way,
agree.
we're bringing in a third party if it's, there's only two of us.
Yeah.
Right.
That have access, myself or the business manager.
Correct.
Third party counsel will be coming, okay, I'll
Yeah.
put that in.
Everybody good with that?
yeah.
Okay.
And then my last, just general was, again, in other policies, we reference notifying law enforcement.
Yep, okay.
And I didn't see that in this. But if someone is committing fraud within the school district, that's fraud against the taxpayers. I would think the sheriff and district attorney would need to be
Yep.
involved.
We've always
And
brought that.
so if we're having a policy on that, our policy should also, you know,
Legal authorities, yep. I'll add that in too as well. Okay, expense reimbursement policy. We can renumber that one too.
I'm gonna say, should that be like 666?
no, you can't go 666.
Okay, honest,
Let's go 670.
thank you. It wasn't, I'm just looking at numbers.
I was thinking about that too, like, oh, you can't go 666.
13.4.
Honest comment,
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing I had on this one was, like, with inflation running crazy the last 2 years, should it be 15, 20, and 25 on number 6? I mean, you can't go out for a burger. A burger and fry places is like,
I know when I went up, for instance, I went up to Door County.
yeah,
I'm like, okay, I submitted $20 for dinner. It was 23,
yeah.
you know, for whatever.
So-
That's just fine. I submitted for 20 though,
Yeah.
because that's our policy.
I mean, it's crazy that you can't
I
go
know.
get a burger and a fry for less than, like.
Now,
it's-
if we would send somebody to New York, or, then that's
Right.
where we're like, hey, guys, you were gonna bump that up.
Yeah,
But even around here,
but I say in Wisconsin, I think 15, 20, and 25, unfortunately, that's the world we live in today. Like, you just can't go get, I mean,
is that all right?
yeah.
and I'm sure, we don't have a lot of this.
No,
At
we
the end of the
we
day.
don't have a lot of it, no, we don't.
Do you feel like that's,
That
Probably
would, that
feel
would
like the
cover,
most, right?
that covers more, actually, it'd be, yeah.
I almost feel
It's the
like
first time I submitted dinner, Rick.
dinner should be 35 or something, but if you
I
can't
think
do
25 is
alcohol-
fine, I mean, when, for instance, I went to Door County for a conference, and dinner was $23.99 or $24.99.
Okay.
25, I think, is more than appropriate.
Okay.
And we did set those prices a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, discretionary retirement savings plans,
Is this gonna be 671?
671.
All right, I've got a hard stop at 8:30.
Okay.
We're doing good.
Yeah, I just gotta get to work.
No, On call at 10, so we're good. Anything on retirement savings plans for employees?
Do we use a third party to help us?
Yes, we do. Everything is third party. on that.
So,
Correct.
Okay.
Next one.
Purchasing.
72.
Yep, 72, and then purchasing guidelines. This one, again, I highlighted, right now, our current practice is anything over $5,000, I come for board approval. Anything over $5,000 needs to get bid out. My question to the policy committee is, I still would like to keep the 5,000, anything over 5,000, we gotta bid it out, perfect. What about bumping that 5,000 to 10,000 for discretion? My thought process behind that is, again, just giving a little bit more leeway. Example is doing some landscaping back here. Need to redo some landscaping due to the parking lot expansion. That's going to be approximately $8,000. I've collected bids. Is that something that you would authorize me to do because it's under 10,000 compared to under 5,000?
Yeah, I'm sure that 5,000 mark was set a long time ago,
Long time ago. Yep.
before 20% inflation over the last 2 years, so.
Just to give a little bit more leeway.
I'd be supportive of making that recommendation. This is another one, I think.
Full
Call it out on the September meeting to say,
Okay.
We're bumping.
the committee's recommending going from 5,000 to 10,000.
Yep.
And maybe give that example to say
Mhm.
like, because again, I think it's a change. Some people will view that, like people, taxpayers might view,
Mhm.
that's a pretty significant jump. That's a lot of money,
Mhm.
you know, it's a lot of money in a
$11 million.
$11 million, budget,
Yep.
right? So,
Speaking of landscaping back there, is there a need to add an additional light? Is it dark the further you go back?
We're good to go from that
Okay.
standpoint. Yep. Yep.
I've been
According to our parking lot people, that expands plenty out there.
It's safe, okay.
Yep. Yep. All right, thank you for that. But again, I'm still keeping the $5,000 bid. Anything over 5,000, we're gonna go to bid for, unless you wanna, I think that still is reasonable.
yeah, I
I
think
think
that's good,
that's-
it's public funds. It's
Public
good
funds, I
policy.
like, yeah, cause
Good practice.
And it keeps everybody honest.
it does, because there's a lot of projects, because they know that, I mean, even we had garage doors, it was 5,050, I'm like, no, we're going to bid, that's fine.
Yep.
Purchasing guidelines, again, just issue purchase orders, again, it's just kind of some very general things that it's gonna be going through a process to be able to get before it gets purchased.
Okay, so this takes the place of 309, or 3009, that's what, okay, and then does it,
Are we on bidding requirements?
No, purchasing, yeah. Oh, purchasing guidelines, I'm sorry, purchasing guidelines.
okay, and then my next question then is 3009 and the 2 pages after that?
Then the 2 pages after that.
So,
Let me see there.
so this is 3009.
Yep.
It's like 2 sentences.
Correct, yep,
And then there's these 2 pages.
right,
And a little bit there.
yep,
So we're replacing,
yeah, correct, we just be replacing.
All of that with this?
Yes, because that kind of says purchasing for personal services, it gets really specific.
And I apologize, are there any meat and potatoes in those following 2 pages that need to be, or is it noise?
it's kind of like blocking and tackling. I don't know.
It talks about pre-authorization, personal services, monthly pest control, fire extinguisher cleaning, elevator, disposal, water.
It's a little,
Yeah,
okay.
I think, yeah.
All things that we do.
Okay, and then, items commonly used in the various schools or units. Or units, what is that reference?
Maintenance shed.
Oh, okay. Fair enough, okay. All right. We're almost done.
Yep. Bidding requirements, again, I kept that at 5,000.
Mhm.
I think that's just good practice there.
Okay, and then on the last, on the back side of it, the recommendation will be given by the district administrator and/or business manager. Do we want to say to the school board for final approval?
They would have. Well,
Or-
it depends. If it's over 10,000, then yes.
Okay, so I think we should
Spell it out.
spell that out. So that if someone, I mean, I think we should just dot our i's and cross our t's.
Room for interpretation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right, district issue credit cards. I did run this by Sophie. She's the one who.
And who all has a credit card?
We have, our administrative team has a credit card, and then we have.
Our administrative team has a credit card, or
they
each
have-
has a
Each
credit
have
card?
a credit card.
Okay.
Each have a credit card.
We authorize high-end users of it. Our family consumer education teacher has a credit card,
Okay.
specifically for groceries and things like that.
Jordan?
Jordan has a credit card. There are also 2 cards for checkout. If someone was going to, just an example, a class party, they needed to go to Walmart for something. They come into the business office, they sign a credit card out, and again, that also has the, I will not do this or this. Tax exempt, Sophie has a credit card too as well.
So like a dozen, 15 probably. Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was the
Yep.
question I had
Do
too.
we have fees associated with, like, an annual fee? Are we getting any points?
We
Are
get 2% cash back, I do
Okay.
believe, on all, that's why whenever we can charge something, we charge it.
Okay,
Yep. I think the last rebate a month was like $3,000, I think. Summer, we obviously spent a lot, but,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Asset management.
So,
can we pause and look at our numbering again? So we go 672 to 683.
675 on that one. Give ourselves some room in case we get.
Yep. Sorry for cleaning it up, for cleaning it up.
Yeah.
So 675, and I'm really sorry, I
That's right.
missed. Looking for district issue credit cards, what were we gonna, we need to redo that one too?
675.
Is that what we were doing, 675?
Well, we go 672,
No, 673, wasn't it? Or what is that?
Purchasing
Good question.
is-
purchasing 672, then purchasing guidelines. Do we want that 672.1 or make that 673?
I
Kind
think
of goes hand in hand.
Purchasing, they go together,
Yeah,
Bidding requirements, 673.
you know? 73.
District issued credit card,
75.
74,
Okay.
because you can always add your points.
Okay, all right. 674. And then asset management, we wanna bump that down then probably, correct? 675. Okay. And we get to audits next. Okay.
Right. Asset management. So asset management on the matrix, on the computer, 675, is that what we just changed from 683?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So that $5,000 limit, that's what our auditors established? For
Yes,
depreciation?
yep,
Okay.
yep, yep, I'm doing that right now. Correct.
And then, I guess the 2 questions are we like barcoding our assets?
Correct,
From
yep,
a
so
inventory management?
anything over $5,000,
we barcode, we do inventory everything that we get though. We put it on our inventory list, just the,
But like all these computers,
those are all get barcoded, correct, and asset.
because those are technically less than $5,000.
But they get inventory,
Yeah,
they do, yeah.
okay, yeah.
And we
Update that every 18 months, so I'm doing it right now.
going back to the printed matrix and what's online, standards of conduct and purchasing and contracting policy, we just renamed? Or are we missing? Did we delete some?
Where are you seeing
What-
standards?
I'm sorry.
Okay, so 672 purchasing policy.
Yep.
And then on what I have here, it goes methods.
That's an old one.
Okay,
You got an old one. Yep,
so
none of this,
we took all that out
yep. Yep,
and just, it's not needed?
not needed.
Okay.
Not needed according to, the school district. So,
Okay.
no, that's all.
Sorry, I'm just-
Nope, that's all right, then, there we are.
Okay,
Yep.
Now I see what you're saying. I didn't look at that one.
okay. All right, moving on, asset management. Do we want, we have 2 minutes, do we wanna keep going, or you wanna wrap
Yeah,
this up
no,
and
let's
get out
wrap
of
it up.
that?
Okay, we got 2 more after.
Okay, then we got audits.
Hold on, Jordan,
I have a painter here for the doors.
Yep, I'll be right with him.
Oh,
I'll be right with
you.
you. Oh, it's about, he needs to paint the doors
Are
by.
you gonna do peppercorn up there?
Yeah.
Okay, peppercorn there, and he's gonna stick with the blue next door?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
all right, perfect, that's it.
Yep. Um,
asset management?
Yeah, I'm good.
okay. And then audits. Do you want to renumber that one then too? Instead of 684, we'll bring that down to 676.
Perfect. Anything for audits, Andrew?
Yes. Second paragraph, audits shall be submitted to the board in a timely manner for expectation, but not to exceed 150 days from the end of fiscal year.
Yep.
Banking, it's 120. They should deliver an audit within 150 days.
Does that
Correct.
follow
For
the
November.
school
It's
statute?
November is when we
Yeah.
typically do that. Yep.
Yeah, I want it specifically stated, not to exceed. They
Oh, oh,
need
they
to
need to- I was like,
deliver it within
okay.
150 days.
Got it.
That, it's off-cycle, first of all, it's off-cycle, their busy season. February, March, April is their busy season. Ours is June, which means they're coming in here in July, August. They should easily be able to get us this within 120
150
days.
days.
But
So-
let's leave it 150, it gives them a little room.
Audits shall be submitted to the board within 150 days.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Disposal of school property? And are we renumbering that one?
Yeah. Bring it down.
77.
Anything on that one?
No, I didn't. It's pretty basic.
Did we do it?
We did it. We did it. The other ones is, we're just, again, just on our matrix. We did delete policy 316, or 3016, which is direct deposit. We don't need to have those forms in there. It's just, we direct deposit everything now. That was a really old policy. And then you'll see testing policy 3018. That was replacing the 300 last year with 342, 342, other than the rules there as well. All right, so next month, I'm gonna bring the 2 policies that we pulled out for review, and then I'll give everybody, we'll do another update on the employee benefits aspect too as well.
Do we want to set a meeting, or did we?
We have not. And I will start working on the next section too as well.
Andrew, anything you got next one?
Do you want me to email you? Just give
Yeah.
we'll email, 'cause you got it.
Pick a week and find something.
Should we try and keep it like a month from now or whatever? Any day of the week better for you than others?
What day is it today?
Thursday. 7.
Our board meeting's the 23rd. Did we want to shoot for like the 12th?
I can do that.
October 12th, 7 AM?
Yep, and I'll send something out.
I'll send it.
Perfect.
All right. Nicole, if you've got 2 seconds, I want to
Sure.
just chat with you on one thing. Thank you. Our